From the old firehouse in beautiful downtown North Manchester, Indiana, it's Good Night with Christopher Blue. Here's your host, Christopher Blue!
Hello and welcome to Good Night with Christopher Blue. I'm Christopher Blue and we have a wonderful show for you tonight. Tonight is Superhero Night and Reverb and I are going to talk about some basics that every superhero should know. Let's get him out here. Reverb! There you are. Hey! A normal handshake. That's almost a weird handshake at this point. How you doing, Reverb?
Good.
That's a reference to last night's episode. Check that out after you're done watching this one. Reverb, there are many things that superheroes should know. And one of them is the basics of first aid.
Yes.
Being in the medical field myself, I know the basics of first aid just because of my career. Would you say that you know the basics of first aid?
I know how to put a Band-Aid on.
Wonderful, okay.
I got military grade gauze for deep gashes and clotting blood. Mm-hmm. But other than that, to be honest, no, not really.
Okay. Well, I'm going to kind of talk about the basics of first aid, and hopefully you'll learn something. And same with you at home.
Yippee!
So first off, and I'm reading on my laptop here because technology. First aid, just so you know what it is the immediate care given to a person who have been injured or suddenly taken ill, and it includes self-help and home care when medical assistance is not available. So I think you could have gathered that much.
What's second aid?
That's a great question.
Is there not a second aid?
I don't think there's a second aid. I think
they're not called first aid if there's no second aid.
It's like the first thing you do before anything else. That's the first aid that you give.
Okay, what's the second aid that you give? There is no second aid.
Hospitalization.
Just call it aid.
Roles of first aid.
Yes.
It bridges the gap between the victim and the physician. It is not intended to compete with nor take the place of the services of the physician. And it ends when the medical assistance begins. So I guess that kind of answers your question.
There's the second aid.
There is the second aid, you're right. The medical assistance is the second aid.
Yes.
Objectives of first aid. Can you take a guess?
Keep the idiot alive?
Yeah, okay. To prolong life was the third point here, yes. So,
I was figuring there was a better term for it, but that was the first.
Yeah.
Keep them alive.
To alleviate suffering, to prevent added or further injury, prevent further energy. No, to prevent added or further injury or danger, and to prolong life. Emergency Action Principles, or EAP. So this is what you do when you first arrive on the scene. Basic first aid. First, you
wake up.
First, you survey the scene. You check out the environment. Then you do a primary survey of the victim, which, as you comically did, You do tap on the shoulder and make sure they are.
Hey.
So you the next step then would be to check the vital body function. You check their airway, their breathing, and
Pulse.
And their circulation. Yes.
Circulation.
The ABCs. And then you activate medical assistance or transfer facility. And by that, I think they mean like you make sure you're calling 911, you make sure you get medical professionals to the scene. Then, you're going to love this, you do a secondary survey of the victim. Second aid.
All right.
And you make sure to make a record of all the assessment and the times. Next slide. And I think now we are going to go over like certain situations and how to handle them. So fainting. Fainting occurs when the blood supply to the brain is momentarily inadequate, causing the patient to lose consciousness. The loss of consciousness is usually brief. Fainting can have no medical significance, or the cause can be a serious disorder. Therefore, treat loss of consciousness as a medical emergency until the signs and symptoms are relieved and the cause is known. Do you feel like you knew that already?
Yeah.
I feel like the basics of first aid is something that when people are asked, do you know? At first they're going to say no, but then once they start learning, you're, oh yeah, it's mostly common sense.
I thought you were gonna. I thought this was gonna be a CPR thing. Like no.
No. This is first aid. This is not CPR. Yeah.
I was trying to do. That's the chest compression.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So, if you feel dizzy, or if you find someone else feeling dizzy, you have them lie down or sit down. You loosen the tight clothing. If you sit down, place your head between your knees, and you discuss recurrent fainting spells with your doctor when you finally see a physician. So that's the basics of feeling dizzy, because being dizzy can be serious. Okay, well, I jumped ahead a little bit. So that was just if you feel dizzy, that's what you do for yourself. If someone else faints or is feeling dizzy, position the person on his or her back. Make sure the legs are elevated and above the heart. And then watch the airway carefully. People who lose consciousness may vomit. So place the person in the recovery position. What is the recovery position, you may ask? It doesn't say.
I'm going to assume maybe on their side.
Yes, I would assume that as well. Which we could look into that further.
Because like it would suck to survive one thing just for you to end up being unconscious and then throwing up and then just choking on your own.
You know, it's in
spaghetti.
Moments like these, I remember that I have an editor. Chethiya, put like pictures of what the recovery position is on screen now. Yeah. If someone else faints, continuing, you help restore the blood flow, which I guess this would be CPR. If the person is breathing, restore blood flow to the brain by raising the person's legs above the level of the head. Loosen belts, collars, or other constrictive clothing. The person should revive quickly. I lied, this isn't CPR. If the person doesn't regain consciousness in 1 to 2 minutes, dial or call for emergency medical assistance. Shock. Do you know what shock is?
Like when you're plugging in the toaster and
That kind of shock.
Kind of. I don't know the exact terms that lead to shock, but
so a depressed condition of many of the body functions due to poor circulation following a serious injury. Shock may result from trauma, heat stroke, allergic reactions, severe infection, poisoning, or other causes. Signs and symptoms of shock. Which, by the way, I do want to point out, we are not authorized to give medical advice. If you are wanting to learn and train in the basics of first aid, I highly recommend you seek out a professional to give you the certification. This is just us talking about the basics of first aid and discussing it and kind of quizzing Reverb's knowledge on it a little bit.
So you're telling us we need professional help?
Yes. Signs and symptoms of shock.
I hope you all heard that.
The skin is cool and clammy and may appear pale or gray. The pulse is weak and rapid. Breathing may be slow and shallow, or hyperventilation with rapid breathing may occur. Blood pressure is below normal. The eyes lack luster and may seem to stare. Sometimes the pupils are dilated. The person may be conscious or unconscious. If conscious, the person may feel faint or be very weak or confused. Shock sometimes causes a person to become overly excited and anxious. So, if you were to take a guess, how would you give first aid to someone going through shock?
Lie them down or get them in a seated position. Talk to them, try to keep them from passing out.
I mean, I think again, common sense pretty much works here. So you do have the person lie down on his or her back and elevate the feet higher than the head. Keep the person from moving unnecessarily.
Further injury.
Look for the signs of shock, as noted before, and keep the person warm and comfortable. Loosen tight clothing and cover the person with a blanket. Don't give the person anything to drink. Do you know why that is?
I'm going to assume that they might not be completely there in their head at the moment, so they might choke on it, or...
That's a good theory. And I'm just giving a theory. I don't know for 100% fact, but sometimes people going through shock, it's a internal temperature thing that they're dealing with. So by giving them something to drink, cooling their body off could further the shock. If the person vomits or bleeds from the mouth, turn the person on his or her side to prevent choking. Treat any injuries such as bleeding or broken bones appropriately. We're almost done with this promise. Wounds and bleeding. Okay, I feel like you might know this. How would you? Actually, I'll give you the definitions first. So, wounds refers to the break in the continuity of the tissues in the body. It is classified as scrapes, laceration, cuts, or puncture. Bleeding refers to a large discharge of blood from the blood vessels. Okay. What do you think the guidelines of treating wounds are? Like, what are the steps that you...
Put silly putty on it and call it a day.
Well, that's definitely not the...
Clean the area. Alcohol, peroxide, alcohol pads, whatever. Or just simple purified water.
Okay.
Maybe.
So the first step is to stop the bleeding. Now, yeah, I know. So the guidelines of treating wounds, first you have to stop the bleeding. It doesn't say how, but I do know you apply pressure onto a wound, and that's how you can stop.
Oh, for something like a gash, then yeah.
So you stop the bleeding, and then you clean the wound. You were right on the money on that one. You rinse out the wound with clear water. Use tweezers cleaned with alcohol to remove any particles. There's no need to use hydrogen peroxide, iodine, or an iodine-containing cleanser. These substances irritate living cells. If you choose to use them, don't apply them directly to the wound. So there's that.
Yeah, no, because I'm thinking like you stop the bleed. If you're gonna stop the bleeding with like a gauze or something, like all right, it's done bleeding. All right, open it up and then start cleaning it. No, just get the cleaning over with.
Right.
Then you can get the bleeding stopped. But yeah, if it's a gushing thing, then just clean it later.
So then apply a thin layer of antibiotic cream or ointment to help keep the surface moist, which we love that word, don't we?
Moist.
Cover the wound. Get stitches for deep wounds. Watch for signs of infection, redness, drainage, warmth, or swelling. And make sure they get a tetanus shot. Which, on the field, we probably wouldn't go that deep into someone's care, but good to know for your own personal use, I guess.
Have you had your tetanus shot? No. Okay, well, I got a needle right here. No.
Now, this is the last slide I have. Choking. What is choking?
Something stuck in the airway?
It is the difficulty in breathing due to obstruction in the airway. Good job. Symptoms include difficulty to speak or cough. In my line of work, if someone is coughing, that means they're still getting air. So that's something to note. Obviously, you still want to dislodge something if something's stuck, but...
All right, it's kind of like... We kind of mean... Okay, well, you're breathing, so you're not a problem.
Well, if someone's coughing, then certain attempts could actually make it worse. So you kind of have to be watching if someone's coughing and wait until they can't cough anymore. Then you really try to intervene. First aid for choking includes back blows and the Heimlich maneuver, which, again, I'm not here to necessarily teach first aid, so if you want to learn, maybe we can get them to come in and teach us some stuff. So please, I highly encourage you to go and learn first aid for yourselves. It doesn't matter if you're pursuing real life superhero work or not. It's handy to know so you can help your fellow man if you need to.
I don't know how big. I think they're pocket sized, but there's these items that you can carry, and you can put them over someone's mouth, and you pull on something, and it essentially
dislodges.
Yeah. De-choker, I think it is. Very simple name, but
Chethiya, if you find what he's talking about, put a picture of it on the screen now. I love having an editor. Yeah, so I mean, do you feel like this helped you at least think about first aid a little bit more, or do you think this was all common sense and that this whole show topic was useless?
I mean, like,
I'll take it.
I'm sure someone learned something, but yeah, it seems just
it's mostly
common sense.
Definitely, like I said, pursue something serious has to be going on out there. Jeez.
Should we get to work?
Yeah, I guess. That's a fire truck. There's a fire.
Good job.
Yeah. Well, we gotta get going, so that's our show. Thank you guys so much for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Don't forget to ring that bell so you get notified whenever we upload new content. Until next time, good night, my sweet baby angels. I'll see you tomorrow.